Session. The topic for this session is various issues in transactions with respect to immovable property. The topic is so wide, and we are fortunate that we have with us CA Jagdish Punjabi sir, who is well known about his expertise in taxation of immovable property. We welcome you, sir. Before I request him to present his paper or presentation, I'll request our committee member, C. Viral Shah, to formally introduce.
Hello. Thank you, sir, for this opportunity. Sir needs, definitely, sir does not need an introduction because he is a regular speaker at our forum, as well a very experienced and a senior professional in our CA field. Sir is a practicing chartered accountant, mainly practicing in the area of direct taxation advisory and representation since 1989. He has secured a rank in CA inter-examination. He practices currently in his individual name. He has been a lecturer in accountancy taxation for more than 17 years in various colleges across Mumbai. He is a contributor to the featured tribunal news published in the Journal of Bombay Chartered Accountants Society. He is also a regular speaker at various seminars all over the country and has also presented papers and authored various articles. He is regularly invited as a guest faculty at the training programs conducted by National Academy of Direct Taxes, Nagpur, and also by the Direct Tax Regional Training Institute, Mumbai. With this brief introduction, we welcome you, sir. I would request Sharath sir to please present a memento on behalf of all of us. I would request CA Ashwin to present a CABF receipt of rupees 500 to sir. Thank you. Sir, we request you to please take over.
Please, please. You come up when you want. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. At the outset, thanks Sharad Bhai A for giving me this opportunity to be back to Borivali once again, and B, and a greater thank for shortlisting the topics which I am supposed to cover. Because the difficult part is that from an ocean of topics which can arise from the perspective of a builder developer in a real estate transaction, for immovable properties, etc., which are the topics one takes and which are the topic one leaves it. Because something may be important for you, something may not be important for me, so on and so forth. So, Sharad Bhai, indeed grateful for having shortlisted the topics. The topics which I was told that I should cover are the method of accounting to be followed by a builder developer, and we are all aware of the age-old controversy of percentage completion method versus project completion method. Department always wants percentage completion method. Every SSC says, I want to follow project completion method. Also, the debate regarding method of accounting to be followed, qua ICDS 3 and 4, as also whether 43CB has any impact thereon. Because 43CB has been introduced in the Act. It was introduced by the Finance Act of 18 with retrospective effect from 1/4/17 to overcome certain decisions of the courts is what even the explanatory memorandum says. Then we are all aware of the controversy regarding taxation of a transaction of entering into a development agreement by a landowner. But now I am told that I must cover development agreement from the perspective of a builder developer who's holding land as stock in trade. Now I could visualize two situations. A situation where I am a builder developer, I own land, but now I feel that with the new age coming, etc., it's beyond my reach to construct, or I have my hands full. Therefore, I engage another builder developer to develop the property belonging to me, which property I am holding as stock in trade. Now, what I discuss under this caption is equally relevant to a landowner who, before entering into a development agreement, chooses to convert his capital asset into stock in trade and thereafter enters. So whether I deal with an issue of a builder entering into a DA, land held as a stock in trade, or a landowner who has converted land from a capital asset to stock in trade, answer and the issues, the discussion would still be one and the same. Then a major part of a cost of a builder is interest cost. By and large, if you ask me, there are only three items of cost: land cost, the interest cost, and the construction cost. Construction cost being the bare minimum. The major chunk being land and the interest cost. Now, all along, we had studied that interest is to be allowed as a deduction because interest is a period cost. Whether I earn or I don't earn, whether I construct or I don't construct, I'm able to sell or I'm not able to sell. If I have borrowed some loan money from Sharad Bhai, I need to pay interest, and that interest we were all under an impression that is allowable under section 36(1)(3). And mind you, that's a big thing if you can achieve a deduction under 36(1)(3), because if you consider a builder who's having 10 different projects, having borrowed for 10 different projects, and if you take a position that interest is a period cost and therefore must go and hit my P&L, then irrespective of from where the profit comes and to which loan the interest pertains, I will still get a deduction. Therefore, quite possible that you may have a situation where a builder has sold 10 flats but gets interest of 1,000 flats as a deduction on the ground that it is a period cost. Now, that position, whether it has undergone any change because of ICDS 9, which is the ICDS dealing with borrowing cost. And last, issues with respect to TDS. I have picked up 2 or 3 transactions and I shall deal with them. Now, I do not know whether I'll be able to, in the given time, cover, but whatever that we are able to cover, we will try to cover in detail. Now, why is accounting of a builder developer so different from accounting of any other person manufacturing goods? What is so great for a builder developer, except that the values are large possibly? The difference is twofold. Number one, the operating cycle spreads over multiple accounting years. Normally, a manufacturer of a goods, within a year, goods are produced and they are also sold. But a builder developer, it takes 3 years, 5 years from the time the project is conceived, development agreement entered, till the time occupation certificate is obtained and the project is finally sold. Therefore, you find an operating cycle which is spread over multiple accounting years, and therefore, if my accounts have to be comparative on a year-to-year basis, how is it that I should maintain my accounts? The tax department will say, we are not concerned. For us, previous year income has to be given in a tax has to be paid in the assessment year. Your project may take 5 years, but give us tax on that portion of the activity which you have carried out during the year. That's the argument of the tax department. Again, the difference is between others and builder developer, that a builder developer, while he is constructing, enters into an agreement to sell. A normal manufacturer does not do so. Not only that, a builder developer keeps receiving the amounts as the construction keeps progressing, right? There may be cases, I mean, we have seen times, the seniors sitting here know, that for Maruti 800 we had to book it and we had to wait for years together to get delivery of that Maruti 800 in those days. The younger crowd here may find it, I mean, may laugh at it today, but those were the days when even for Bajaj Priya, you had to book the scooter and you had to wait for years on for your turn to get an allotment. But you paid a booking amount, you never paid the entire amount. You never paid Bajaj money or consideration proportionate to the work done on your scooter, because the work on your scooter may start after 4 years when your turn comes. Again, today, a customer has a right, a statutory right under section 18 of RERA, that if you fail to give me delivery of the flat on the date on which you have promised to do so in the agreement signed with me, then I have a right to demand the money back along with interest and also compensation. Now, in the background of this, we need to seriously think, does any income accrue before that date comes? If you are able to answer this question, then you have resolved the first topic at all. Because when does income accrue after all? When I have a right to receive, that amount is absolutely mine. Till such time as that date arrives, can I say this amount is absolutely mine? The answer is no. Possible. By that time, prices have gone up 5 times. And you may decide that I don't want to go back with interest and compensation. I choose to continue. Quite possible. By that time, prices have halved because the FSI granted has increased 4 times or 5 times. As a result, what will happen? The prices have crashed in the economy. You will say, look here, you have defaulted on the date. Section 18 gives me the right. Therefore, I want to go back, return my money with interest. And there were times, and there are cases in real practice, where people have benefited by walking out of the project. They have made money by buying again from the builder in that very same project. I mean, there are real life cases of that kind also. So this is about it. Now come to, when do you record profits? When do you record? When can you say that you can compute and offer profits for taxation? To my mind, when 3 conditions are satisfied. Number 1, there has to be a sale. Now, for a sale to happen, the item being sold must be in existence. Can I sell something which is not there in existence? Can I sell something which is not in existence? The answer is no. What is the basis of this answer? Because I like it, the answer is no. It is section 5 of Transfer of Property Act, which says that you may enter into an agreement to convey in future, right? But at the time of conveyance, the property has to be in existence. Therefore, till such time as the property is not in existence, there can never be a sale. So first point is there has to be a sale. Keep in mind section 5 of the Transfer of Property Act. Now, some people in some seminars say, no sir, हम तो stamp duty day 1 पे भर देते हैं. हम तो वो agreement को register भी करते हैं. Now, you pay stamp duty because of a specific entry in the Maharashtra Stamp Act. You go and register it because of a specific section in MOFA, not because Registration Act requires it, but because MOFA required that there was a malpractice of a builder selling the same flat to multiple people. So if he has sold it to me and I have got my document registered, at least those coming to him after me know that this particular flat has been sold to this gentleman, so it cannot again be sold to me because a registered agreement is a public document. Am I clear so far? The sale consideration is known and is likely to be realized. That is the second ingredient for recognizing profit. And the third is cost of what has been sold is known or can be ascertained with reasonable certainty. So I will record profits only when these three conditions to my mind are cumulatively satisfied. Now, the term accrual has been explained in Accounting Standard 1 on disclosure as revenues and costs are accrued, that is recognized as they are earned or incurred and recorded in financial statement of the period to which they relate. Which means all that this definition is telling me is, for the purpose of accrual, you don't have to go by the actual cash flow. You have to go by the earning and the cost incurred, not necessarily whether cost is paid or not. If I have sought advice of Sharad Bhai today and he raises an invoice of 10 lakh of rupees, no matter that I will pay him that invoice after 3 months and he being a good friend does not insist on that payment immediately, I will still going by accrual basis because I have received the advice and I have incurred a liability. I will be required going by the accrual system to record that liability, and he, if he is following mercantile system of accounting, will be required to record that income no matter that he is not received that payment from me. Same thing on the other side, right? Now, we are all aware in this auditorium about the celebrated decision of the Supreme Court in E.D. Sassoon's case, where the concept of accrual has been explained, and it says that if an assessee acquires a right to receive the income, income has been said to have accrued to him. So by rendering advice to me, Sharad Bhai has acquired a right to receive this income. Now that he has acquired a right to receive income, I can say that income has accrued to him. The basic conception is that he must have acquired a right to receive. There must be a debt owed to him by somebody. There is a debt of 10 lakh of rupees which I owe to him, right? Now, we'll skip some of the things. Now, let's understand the distinction between contractor and a builder developer. Okay. Now, what is the difference between a contractor and a builder developer? It's very necessary for us to understand, because if I am a contractor, then according to me, the only correct method to follow is percentage completion method. If I am a contractor, 43 CB applies to me. If I am a contractor, I am bound to follow or compute my income in accordance with ICDS 3. But if I am not a contractor, then none of these apply to me. In fact, if you ask me the personal question, which is the correct method of the two, I'll say the only correct method is project completion method. It's a different issue that it's not being recognized. I mean, it is being insisted upon by officers who want to collect revenue at the earliest. But if you ask me in theory, the only correct method is project completion method, and you have old decisions of the tribunal confirmed by the high courts saying this is the only method. Percentage completion is only an estimate. Okay. Now again, in that percentage completion method, please do not go by the concept of 8% of the advances received, 10% of the work done. That is not percentage completion method. Percentage completion method means you follow the method and follow the methodology given in the 2012 guidance note of the Institute of ICAI. Very short, I mean, there is a draft of an ICDS on real estate, which has been issued, I believe, in May 2017. We are today in June 2026. Still, that draft has not been finalized. you will find officers telling you that because of ICDS 3, because of ICDS 4, percentage completion is mandatory. Tell him no, there is a CBDT circular which says that as on today, we do not have any ICDS dealing with real estate transactions. And therefore, they came out with a draft of an ICDS in May 2017, which was issued for for the stakeholder comment. But that draft still today, after 9 years, has not yet been finalized. Why? Because that draft goes on the basis of percentage completion method. Even CBDT knows that project completion is the only correct method. Therefore, there is some reluctance in finalizing that draft. There is Ind AS 115, if I am not mistaken, for the companies which are governed by Ind AS. Now, what does Ind AS 115 tell you? Nothing doing. Effectively, it says follow project completion method. Now, if percentage completion was correct, why is it that Ind AS is forcing me to follow project completion method, right? You may say it's not mandatory on you. You're not governed by Ind AS. Fair enough, but that does not change the principles. If tomorrow a large company like Oberoi or Godrej, etc., is required to prepare its accounts and pay tax on project completion method, can you say that, no, he may pay according to project completion method, but you pay according to percentage completion method? One of you may ask me a question, can the officer say, Ind AS applies for your accountancy? So तुम accountancy में करो complete project completion. But when it comes to taxation, give me tax on percentage completion method. Is this possible? Certainly not, because your starting point is commercial profits. Then you do plus minus for what is expressly stated in the Act. There is nothing in the Act to even suggest that a builder developer must follow percentage completion method. Okay. Now, we were on what is the difference between a contractor and a builder developer? A contractor is a person who's assigned a particular job or a contract for a specified value. So his job is specified, the value is specified, and he works according to the mandate given to him by the contractee. Contractee is the person giving the contract. So let's presume that Omkar Builders or some other builder developer has entered into a development agreement, but now finds he has money, but does not have the wherewithal to actually execute the construction. So he goes to Larsen and Toubro, tells them that these are the plans, you construct now. Does Larsen and Toubro become the builder developer? The answer is no. Larsen and Toubro in this case is a contractor, but the Omkar or whoever is the builder developer who has entered into a DA, he still remains a builder developer. Percentage completion mandatory for Larsen and Toubro, but percentage completion absolutely not mandatory for builder developer. Am I very clear? What's the difference? The builder developer takes the risk. The flat may be sold, flat may not be sold. The flat, he may make super profits or he may end up suffering a loss. But as far as Larsen and Toubro is concerned, his roles and responsibilities are defined. The money which he will receive upon fulfilling his responsibilities is also defined. Therefore, I can say, 25% काम हो गया, तो 25% revenue recognize करो. Am I clear? मेरे को total इतना काम करने का था, आज की डेट में सब 30% काम हो गया, तो ठीक है, आपको जितना पैसा मिलने वाला था, उसका 30% recognize करो, difference उतना profit आपने आज कमा लिया. But can you say that for a builder developer? The answer is no. The roles and responsibility of a builder developer are much, much wider. If at all you are interested, you can look at this paragraph later. I'll distribute the presentation. The relevant portions may not be the entire. This paragraph of Prerna Property Premises, Bombay Tribunal, explains what are the activities of a builder and a developer. Okay. Now, we come to the two methods. We are all aware, project completion means what? Project completion means what? Sorry? OC received. CC तो बॉम्बे में बहुत कम के पास होता है. OC और occupation certificate received. Presume occupation certificate not received, but possession given. Agreement registered. Will you say project complete or no? Is OC critical? OC नहीं आया तो क्या प्रॉफिट नहीं दोगे? OC नहीं आया तो प्रॉफिट नहीं दोगे? लोग वहां जाके रह रहे हैं, तुमको तुम्हारा पैसा मिल गया, एग्रीमेंट रजिस्टर हो गया, ओसी कोई भी कारण से नहीं आया, आपने कोई एक फ्लोर एक्स्ट्रा बना दिया था या जो भी. So therefore BMC is not giving you an OC. Are you going to say I will not pay tax on the entire 10,000 flats because 10 flats का OC नहीं है? I mean 10 flats are illegal and therefore BMC is not issuing me an OC. Will you say that? This is where litigation happens, and this is where litigation happens, and this is where department keeps objecting to project completion method, and then you have decisions contrary. Then you have decisions saying, no, this method is not good enough. Why? See, ultimately you have to see, have you realized your commercial profits or no? If the answer is that you have received your entire consideration, you have handed over the possession, then what is the difficulty in recognizing the profits? You may say, sir, अभी तक मैंने वो common road बनाया नहीं है, swimming pool बनाने का है, वो बनाया नहीं है, जिम नहीं बनाया, लॉबी फिनिश नहीं किया. क्यों नहीं किया ये सब? क्योंकि मेरे को और माल बेचने का है. आज लॉबी बना दिया तो लॉबी जूना हो जाएगा, तो मेरा माल बिकने में दिक्कत आएगा. पूरा माल बिकने में 5 साल लगता है, right? Therefore, I will try to postpone all these activities. Fair enough. You make a provision for incomplete work. When you are preparing your accounts as per project completion method, you make a provision. You estimate, okay, I will need 5 crore of rupees to do whatever is unfinished, which I am required to do as per the agreements entered by me, and I have not yet done. Therefore, I am making a provision of 5 crore. Some officer may question, how did you arrive at the figure of 5 crore? If there is a scientific basis, he will allow it. So what happens if he allows me 5 crore and subsequently expenditure happens to be 10 crore? You will still get it. The extra 5 crore which you incur, you will get it in the subsequent year. So prior period expense nahi hoga kya? The answer is clearly no. Because it is a change in an estimate. Before ICDS came, there was somewhat TAS, tax accounting standard or something like that they were saying, under 145. Only 2 of them were issued. One of them had explained very clearly that a change in estimate will not be regarded as a prior period expense. I estimated 5 crore, expenditure became 10 crore. You will allow me the differential in the year in which I incur the difference. I provided 5 crore, expenditure happened only 3 crore. उधर किया था, उसने स्क्रूटिनी में चेक भी किया, उसको कन्विंस भी किया कि 5 करोड़ होने वाला है, राइटली रॉन्गली 3 ही करोड़ खर्चा हुआ, कि बाकी काम नहीं किया मैंने, या सस्ते में करवाया, जो भी किया. Then what will happen? Then that 2 crores which you have got as a deduction earlier will become taxable under 41(1). Because when you created a provision, you would have debited your P&L and you would have created a liability. जब जब तुमने वो 5 में से 3 खर्चा किया, वो liability घटते गया. अब टाइम आ गया, 2 करोड़ का liability खड़ा है, आपने सोसाइटी भी हैंड ओवर कर दिया, अभी तो आप कुछ करने वाले नहीं हो. Some officer will tell you, please write back this 2 crores and you will have to someday write this back as your income. Am I clear? Now, these are the decisions on which department relies to argue that now I can't do anything. What is the slide? Hey, नहीं slide. अच्छा, ओके. अभी राकू पीसी. Hang well. Pen drive. Pen drive. हाँ, पर पेन ड्राइव में सुना है. It's the issue with the transmission because I am able to see. હા? કાઢીને રાખવાથી કંઈ થશે નહીં તો કાઢીને રાખવાનું છે. હા, because he removed the pen drive. What is that? Not that. No PPT. Anyway, so I think we continue till the time they set it. Good. He stopped it for me also. At least with me it was working. Now with me also it's not. Just give me a minute. It must work with me. With me also. ત્યાં દંડ છે કે નહીં મને ખબર નથી. ઓકે, થઈ ગયું, થઈ ગયું. ઓકે. Okay, so now the revenue relies on these few decisions to contend that you must follow percentage completion method. Now, if you will get into each of these decisions, you will find that there is something or the other which was peculiar in the facts of that case, which made the court or the tribunal come to a conclusion that you must follow percentage completion method. Right? Now, the most common decision is the decision of Mumbai Tribunal in Champion Construction. Right? If you carefully read this decision, it is for 2 years. In 1 year they said, don't offer profits. In another year they said, offer profits. Now, the tribunal in that very same order is telling you something. What was it which made the tribunal say? They said more than 80% of the flats are sold. The sales realization is more than the cost incurred. Therefore, even assuming तुम्हारा 20% नहीं बिकता है, तो भी you have recovered your cost. Right? That was their second argument. Third, nearly entire project was over, construction. Then what was stopping you? I mean, so it was in those circumstances that they said at least वो 80% जो बिक गया उसका तो tax दो. Right? Now, therefore, that does not become a general rule के सब केस में मेरे को tax दे दो. Right? As against those few decisions, you see they are what 7 or 8 in number. उसमें एक दो contractor के भी decision निकलेंगे. Right? As against that, you have Bombay High Court, Delhi High Court, Gujarat, Karnataka, Punjab and Haryana, and to top it all, even Supreme Court. Accepting that project completion method is a recognized method of accounting. Project completion method is a recognized method of accounting. Decisions don't stop on this slide. They run over to the second slide, and these are all High Court decisions. You are coupled with much greater number of decisions of various benches of the tribunal. Therefore, please be clear that nobody can stop you, or there is nothing in law, at least today while I am speaking, to force you to accept percentage. आपका फर्स्ट ईयर है, डिफिकल्टी आएगा, लेकिन अगर सेकेंड ईयर ऑफ द प्रोजेक्ट है, then तो it is impossible that you will lose in tribunal. CIT appeal I can't say, but in the tribunal, ultimately you will get it. On the ground that for part of the project, I have offered taxes on, I have gone on project completion, you are halfway changing me to percentage completion. Therefore, in the fourth year, when you change me from project completion to percentage completion, what are you telling me? Either you will tell me khali fourth year ka tax do, because every year under percentage completion, I will pay tax only on that component which is attributable to the year under consideration. You can't ask me to pay tax of the earlier 3 years, right? So that is the difficulty department will have halfway through. Okay. Now, ultimately, whether I go by project completion or I go by percentage completion, is there any revenue loss? The answer is there is no revenue loss. It is only a question of deferment. Instead of paying tax in year 2, I may be paying tax in year 5. Year 3 का भी मैं 5 में भरूंगा, 4 का भी 5 में भरूंगा. लेकिन 5 आते आते तो आपको पूरा टैक्स आपका मिल जाएगा. You have so many decisions of Supreme Court and Bombay High Court, as also one from the Delhi, where claims of the SSC, I'm not saying these are on method of accounting, the claim of the SSC was allowed on the ground that there is no revenue loss. Therefore, that itself is an extra argument to you that whether I follow percentage completion or I follow project completion, what is the loss to the revenue? There is no loss to the revenue. Therefore, you can even rely on these decisions. Do I take questions now or towards the end? I think let's go with the flow. Okay, now this is a fantastic decision from the Delhi Tribunal in DLF. Now here, the CIT invoked powers under 263 and he said change over from percentage completion to project completion. Tribunal dropped that 263 order only on the ground that where is the revenue loss. So only on the ground of revenue loss, directly on the subject, you have a decision of the Delhi bench of the tribunal. Then you have this celebrated decision of Chamber of Tax Consultants challenging the issuance of ICDS. Now, there, in that decision, Delhi High Court says AS9 permits completed contract in specified circumstances. Para 7.1 of AS9 permits to follow proportionate completion. Therefore, two methods were available to a person. Now, going by ICAI accounting standards. Now what is happening? ICDS is saying only one of them. Delhi High Court says Supreme Court in Billari Investment, Delhi High Court in Manish Buildware and Paras Buildtech have held that project completion method is also a recognized method. So earlier I had two methods. Now your ICDS is saying only one method. Therefore it is contrary to the judgments. And therefore they say we are striking it down. Therefore they say we are striking it down. Right? Now, this I have told you 2017 that ICDS on real estate transaction has been issued, which has still not been notified. Now, whenever it becomes effective, it very clearly says, at least the draft says, it will apply to projects commencing after coming into force of that ICDS. which means for the past projects, all projects which have started prior to that ICDS being notified, to them you can certainly argue that the choice is yours whether to follow percentage completion or project completion. Now this is a fantastic decision. I think everybody should read this decision at least once. Maybe about a 100-page order or whatever it is of DLF. DLF had to follow Ind AS. As I told you, Ind AS in the year of transition said completed contract method. DLF was following percentage completion method. Therefore, accounting standard forced DLF to change over from percentage completion to project completion. Correct? DLF happily did that. Then when it came to income tax return, they said, boss, 5,500 crore of income we have offered on percentage completion. But now I am required to follow project completion. Therefore, give me a deduction of 5,500 crores. Mind you, they did not say we are not recognizing the revenue. They said past में जो दिया है उसको reverse करो अभी. The CIT appeal itself allowed it, and the tribunal confirmed the order of CIT appeal. Again, on the ground, no loss of revenue considered. Project completion method is an recognized method. Ind AS was not out of choice, it was out of mandate for DLF, right? Now, if that can happen, then you can certainly remain in project completion method. Okay. Now, this is section 18 of RERA, to which I have already made a reference. Okay. Now, this one decision, just see. Now, see, this is an order of 1995. उस जमाने में substantial question of law नहीं होता था. There used to be a reference application made by the tribunal. So from the tribunal, if anybody wanted to go to the High Court, either the SSC or the revenue, there used to be a reference application. Now look at the question being asked by the tribunal to the Bombay High Court. Whether on facts and in circumstances of the case, tribunal was justified in holding that completion of project is an absolute and necessary precondition to determine profit earned by a builder. Completion of a project is an absolute and a necessary precondition to determine profits earned by a builder developer. I mean, keep that in mind. Now, very quickly, does ICDS 3 and 4 change the situation? To my mind, answer is a clear no. ICDS 3 deals with construction contracts. I have pointed out the difference between a contractor and a builder developer. A builder developer is certainly not a contractor, and therefore the question of following ICDS 3 does not arise. Also, you go to FAQs issued by the CBDT itself. Question number 12 in that FAQ says, since there is no specific scope exclusion for real estate developers and BOT projects from ICDS 4 on revenue recognition, please clarify whether ICDS 3 and 4 should be applied by real estate developers and BOT operators, also whether ICDS is applicable for leases. Look at the answer. At present, there is no specific ICDS notified for real estate developers. A circular issued by CBDT may not be binding on the SSC, but is certainly binding on the revenue, even if it is contrary to the provisions of the law, as long as it is giving a benefit. My argument in the appeal is going to be that when the AO invokes ICDS, he is acting in contravention of a CBDT circular which is binding on him, and therefore he has erred in doing so, therefore reverse his action. I am not on the correctness or otherwise of the circular. I am saying this is a circular. Here is the officer who is acting contrary to the circular. Please direct him to follow the mandate of the circular. That's it, right? So, okay, this was CBDT saying at present there is no specific ICDS notified for real estate developers. Therefore, relevant provisions of Act and ICDS shall apply to the transactions as may be applicable. So nothing specific for real estate developers, but if at all something is applicable, to the extent applicable, you go and follow it. Fine. Now, your institute has also very categorically said that ICDS do not apply to real estate developers. So if in tax audit you have taken some position, you can be sure that the institute will not haul you up, because there is a technical guide of the institute itself. Do I have any decisions so far? There is one which I could find of the Bangalore Tribunal in corporate leisure, where there is a categorical statement that provisions of ICDS 3 are not applicable to real estate developers. Right? This is a draft of real estate plan. Okay, now, when we follow percentage completion, just 2 or 3 points. You need to cumulatively satisfy certain conditions. Only then you will go and recognize revenue going by percentage completion method. Now, which are the 3 conditions which the draft ICDS is stating? Your institute's guidance note as 1 or 2 extra conditions. So it is, ICDS on real estate is stricter. I am going by the stricter of the 2. First is that the expenditure on construction should be 25% or more of the construction and development cost. Mind you, purpose क्या है? आपने 25% तो काम किया कि नहीं? आपने जब प्रोजेक्ट लिया था तो एस्टिमेटेड कंस्ट्रक्शन डेवलपमेंट कॉस्ट कितना था, वो आपने एस्टिमेट करना है. फिर ड्यूरिंग द ईयर और एट द एंड ऑफ द ईयर हैव यू इनकर्ड 25% or more of that cost. Mind you, it is only construction and development cost, land cost not to be taken for this trigger condition. Interest cost, if at all it has to be capitalized, that is also not to be taken. It is pure simple construction and development. Idea क्या है? Idea is कि आपने काम किया भी है या नहीं किया है. 25% तो at least काम करो. Second, 25% or more of the sellable project is secured by contracts or agreements with buyers. So if you are going to construct 1 lakh square feet which will be available for sale, have you at least entered into enforceable agreements with respect to 25,000 square feet? So if you have entered into agreement for only 24,000, but have even finished 75% of their work, you will still not recognize any revenue, because all 3 conditions are cumulative. Then third, each agreement, have you received 10% or no? So if for 5 particular flats, I have entered into agreement, but I have not received 10% of the amount, I have received less than that, then those 5 flats according to me do not qualify at all for the purpose of percentage completion. Am I clear on this? Fine. So now if these are satisfied, then you go ahead and follow percentage completion as and when the real estate ICDS becomes mandatory, not before that. Right? Now let's come to development agreement qua stock in trade. Now first, what is stock in trade? When do I say this is stock in trade, this is not capital asset, or this is capital asset, this is not stock in trade? How do I decide that? Sorry? Intention कहाँ आएगा? Astrologer चाहिए ना उसके लिए. Intention कहाँ से मालूम पड़ेगा? Sorry? Nature of business, he says, is 1. Okay. So if I'm a builder developer, will you say that every land held by me is stock in trade? No. So therefore, again, business nature alone cannot be the criteria. So, past and future conduct, intention, as he said, nature of business being carried on, the conduct, whether I am borrowing money or no. Borrowing is a trait of trade. Am I entering into, risk? Are there risks involved in what I am doing, or there are no risks involved, right? So these are, now if I want to get into the, so therefore all that I want to conclude is that books में क्या दिखाया, that is not relevant. Books में आपने stock in trade बोला होगा, Dattani Builders, reported decision of Mumbai bench of the tribunal. He said, I have continuously for 15 years shown it as stock in trade. Therefore, 50C does not apply. Tribunal said, you may have shown it. You may have done whatever you want. But this is a property which is not developable. So something which is not developable according to Mumbai tribunal cannot be stock in trade, because stock in trade is what you trade into. Something which is not developable cannot be sold, and therefore this is not your stock in trade, and therefore they had 50C applies. If you want to understand the true nature, go to the Supreme Court decision in Glowshine Builders and Developers Private Limited, where Supreme Court analyzed that what tribunal should have seen to come to a conclusion that this is stock in trade. There the tribunal went by the book reflection. It said since last 12 years this is being shown as stock in trade. Supreme Court said that's not relevant. You should have seen the nature of business, as he said, the frequency, the volume of trade, etc. Supreme Court gave 5 or 7 parameters. Said tribunal should have tested that and then come to a conclusion whether this is stock in trade or not. Similar effect, if you want, you have a Mumbai tribunal decision in Prabhakar Corporation. Fine. Now, in general, forget all this. First principles. For a stock in trade, which is immovable property, when do I say profits accrue? When I enter into the agreement, when I receive some money, when that agreement is registered, when possession is handed over, when do I say? I am not yet on the development agreement part. I am only on stock in trade, immovable property. When do I recognize profits? I will recognize profits only when in-law transfer happens. In-law transfer happens only when there is a registered conveyance. I cease to be the owner, he becomes the owner, therefore now there is a transfer of immovable property, therefore I must recognize the profit. Authority celebrated Supreme Court decision in Alapati Venkatramaya, followed by, okay, now once you say this is stock in trade, then your definition of transfer in 2 into bracket 47 goes out of the window. Because that transfer definition is only in relation to a capital asset. That transfer definition does not apply to stock in trade. Am I very clear on that? Do I need any authority? Answer is no. If at all you want, you have R. Gopinath, HUF, and Dheeraj Amin, which say that once you are dealing with an item of stock in trade, the definition of transfer under 2 into bracket 47 does not apply. Okay. Now, Alapati Venkatramaya, Supreme Court tells you that the transfer will happen only when there is a transfer of title or a transfer enforceable or a transfer in accordance with the provisions of Transfer of Property Act, not till that time. Now, Delhi Tribunal, or a common case, when you convert capital asset into stock in trade and then you enter into a DA, when will you pay tax? When will you pay tax? Because see, everybody before tax, Bombay High Court said this is not acceptable. They said you have done all that you were required to do. Therefore, what stops you from not offering it for tax? Bombay High Court went by the accounting treatment and they said you have yourself recognized this as sale. So how can you now say that the profits don't accrue? You have taken the profit to reserve fund. You have used that profit for distribution of dividend, right? So that decision to my mind is on a typical facts of that case. Fine. Fine. Now, apart from this, okay, now let's come to, now a DA, if it is in respect of land held as stock in trade, various issues. First, head of income under which it will be taxed, obviously profits and gains of business or profession. Year of taxability. Year of taxability depends on what? Revenue share agreement है कि area share agreement है, right? Assuming revenue share agreement है, तो क्या होगा? Builder will keep selling the flats. जो revenue आएगा उसमें से certain percentage will come to me. Okay? Now that builder may be following percentage completion, may be following project completion. I don't know. Are you understanding the facts? I am a builder developer. I have land as stock in trade. You are another builder with whom I have entered into a development agreement. Now the development agreement between you and me is a revenue sharing development agreement. You are going to sell the flats, 30% of whatever you receive, you are going to give it to me. Clear? Now you say you follow percentage completion method. Correct? Am I concerned with that? You're following percentage completion. Does it mean that I must also follow percentage completion? The answer is clear no. Clear no. What you do is for you to decide. What I have to do is between me and the law. Right? Your method cannot affect my taxation. So the question is, can I? Now, year 2, you sold some flats, you gave me 30%. Year 3, again you sold, again you gave me 30%. But occupation certificate came in year 7. In year 7, occupation certificate came. On receiving occupation certificate, you gave possession of the flat and you said, my project is now complete. Correct? Now, can I now say, or rather, I am asking a question, which is the correct year where I need to offer profits for taxation? Year 3, 4, where I received some money, or year 7? Year 7 is the only year where I need to offer profits for taxation. Because till that time, there is no sale at all. If you have not sold it, tomorrow that man may cancel the agreement. If he cancels the agreement, you will have to return the money. If you have to return the money, my 30% also will go back, right? Therefore, is there certainty about this? Is this a sale? The answer is no. Therefore, in a revenue sharing in respect of stock in trade, I will record profit only when there is an actual sale. When does actual sale happen? OC nahi, possession given. Work done, possession given. Agreement entered. Right? So there has to be an agreement transferring the title. There has to be possession being given and money has to be received by me. Right? If money is not received, but there is an enforceable agreement, if I am following mercantile system, yes. I mean, you cannot make a general rule like this. Okay. Now, I'll come to it. TDS, who will deduct? The question mark. It will all depend on what is the language of your agreement. If the language of the agreement is that the buyer will issue 2 checks, 30% मेरे नाम का, 70 आपके नाम का, so from my 30, he will deduct 1%. From your 70, he will deduct 1%. Then again, there is no question of your deducting anything. Okay. So, एक stage पे 1% जाएगा. Now, whether the builder developer does it or that ultimate customer does it is a different issue. Okay. Now these are the decisions which deal with recognition of profits in respect of a DA, qua, land held as stock in trade, all unanimously telling you that go and pay tax in the year of completion. Go and pay tax in the year of completion. Even the last 2 decisions, Om Developers Ahmedabad and Hyderabad Tribunal in Leo Township, were dealing with such cases where on money received was found. And even qua on money, the tribunal says, wait, you tax it. We are not saying don't tax it, but tax it in the final year. Because till that time, there is no sale. If there is no sale, where is the question of on money? On money hone ke liye check portion chahiye, cash portion chahiye, right? दोनों का टैक्सेशन साथ में होएगा. यू कैनॉट से कि ऑन मनी आज टैक्स करूंगा और चेक का पैसा बाद में टैक्स करूंगा. सो even to the extent of on money, it has been held that you hold on, right? You have, for your jurisdictional tribunal, you have this Pune bench, Vilas, Rukari, etc. Okay. Now, this is not important for us. Estate investment I have already discussed with you. Now, this is a Bangalore Tribunal 2026 decision, again in respect of revenue sharing, qua land held as stock in trade. Tribunal ultimately held that there has to be a transfer, and for transfer to happen there has to be property. Property comes into existence जब वो बन जाएगा तब, and therefore wait and tax it there. Till that time it is only an advance, it is a liability, it is not in the nature of income, right? Yeah, Anushka Estates, that was the proposition. Then Ashoka High-Tech Builders, Indore bench, again the same proposition. Books were maintained on mercantile basis. Tribunal even notes that what at best what is happening? At best there is a postponement of tax. They look into all those decisions which I have given to you in the earlier slide also, that timing difference does not mean much. Claim cannot be denied merely because assessee is offering it in a different year and you are proposing to tax it in a different year. Yeah. Now, why I have chosen this decision is that year 43 CB was considered. The department said everything fine, but 43 CB tab nahi tha. Now 43 CB is there. Therefore, he has to follow percentage completion method. The tribunal said firstly, the year with which they were concerned, in that year 43 CB was not applicable. They said firstly 43 CB does not apply to the year under consideration. Anyway, since you are raising that issue, they dealt with the issue and they said that no, if we take it today, then you are deviating from the consistently followed method of accounting. Therefore, on that ground also we do not want to change the method because earlier you have accepted it. Now, next question comes that what happens in case of area sharing? Revenue sharing we saw two decisions, right? Now, area sharing में क्या होता है? Area sharing में I will get some percentage of the area. Now, if you recall, in capital gains, we say दो tax होता है. One, capital gain on entering into a DA, in which I will consider full value of consideration to be either market value of the flats, or if I have to argue, I'll say construction cost of my area. From that, I will subtract the cost of acquisition of that proportionate land, and the result will be capital gain. Then, the flats which I am going to get, those will be sold in the market. उसका cost ये होगा जो यहाँ पे मैंने full value of consideration लिया है, plus land component, because मैंने मेरा land component transfer नहीं किया capital. Therefore, if land is held as capital asset, there are two capital gains. One on entering into DA, that is qua development right transferred. Second is when the individual units are sold. Now, when you hold land as stock in trade, now why did this situation arise? This situation arose because of definition of transfer in 247. We said stock in trade होगा तो 247 लगता नहीं है. अब एरिया शेयरिंग एग्रीमेंट है, मैंने डेवलपमेंट एग्रीमेंट एंटर किया, उसके बाद इंस्टेड ऑफ being owner of the land, now I am owner of 20 flats. Correct? आपने मुझे फ्लैट बना के दिए, मेरे हिस्से में 20 फ्लैट आ गए. So at the end, what happened? I was earlier owner of the land, now I am owner of 20 flats. Correct? Flat बेचा क्या? The answer is no. Should I offer profits? See, first question was DA sign किया तब देने का क्या? Answer is no. अरे अभी तो फ्लैट मिल गया, अब देने का कि नहीं, अभी टैक्स देने का कि नहीं? यस, किस वैल्यू पे सर? किस वैल्यू पे सर? कौन सा स्टैंप ड्यूटी वैल्यू सर? वो कहां से आ गया पिक्चर में अभी? सॉरी, नहीं वो कहां से आ गया? ये अकाउंटिंग में स्टैंप ड्यूटी वैल्यू कहां से आ जाता है बीच में? अब बुक्स में क्या एंट्री करोगे, मेरे को सीधी सीधी भाषा में बताओ ना। आपके पास लैंड था, आपने डीए साइन किया, वी सेट ट्रांसफर का डेफिनेशन नहीं अप्लाई होता है, जाने दो, बाद में देखेंगे। वो बाद में आ गया 5वां साल, अभी 20 फ्लैट आ गए आपके पास, अब क्या एंट्री करोगे? टैक्स को बाद में देखेंगे, पहले अकाउंटिंग की तो बात करो। सॉरी, फ्लैट अकाउंट डेबिट टू perfect, with what value? Correct. These 20 flats which are coming to me is what? Stock in trade or capital asset? Stock in trade. What is your principle? Stock in trade to be valued at what? Lower of cost or net realizable value. This cost of this flat is same thing as cost of land. बाकी अगर आपने किया रेकनर वैल्यू, मार्केट वैल्यू जो भी था, then you are going against your fundamental concept of accounting of conservatism. You are recognizing anticipated profits. आपको प्रॉफिट रियलाइज हुआ नहीं है, एक एसेट दूसरे एसेट में कन्वर्ट हो गया, एक एसेट दूसरे एसेट में कन्वर्ट हो गया। कंसीडर दिस वे, अगर आपने खुद बनाया होता तो क्या आप टैक्स देते? आपने खुद बनाया होता तो क्या आप टैक्स देते? द आंसर इज नो। देयरफॉर आपने उससे बनवा के लिया, इंस्टेड ऑफ आपने बनाने की बजाय आपने उससे बनवा के लिया, तो अभी टैक्स कहां से आ गया? जस्ट बिकॉज मैंने नहीं बनाया, इनसे बनवाया, गोदरेज से या एलएनटी से बनवाया, डज नॉट मीन आई हैव टू पे टैक्स। दिस इज व्हाट इज डिस्कस्ड इन डिटेल बाय द बैंगलोर ट्राइब्यूनल इन धीरज अमीन। They say what nonsense, cost or market value, fundamental thing. Therefore, the flats which are coming will be recorded at the same price at which land was recorded. So ultimately, you pay tax only once. You will pay tax only once, which is where जब वो फ्लैट बिक के पैसा आएगा, पैसा नहीं आया तब तक सब हवा की बातें हैं। वो स्टैम्प ड्यूटी वैल्यू, मार्केट वैल्यू, रेकनर वैल्यू, ऑल दैट इज आई मीन इन दी एयर। Okay, fine. So now 43CB does not apply. I'm not spending time on this. If at all you want decisions, you have Cuttack Tribunal in high-tech estate and promoters, and you have Jaipur Tribunal in Krish infrastructure. It is elementary to say 43CB cannot apply to a builder, developer. It will apply only to a contractor. Okay, fine. But if 43CB applies, if it applies, and if you are a contractor, then you have to apply in toto. Then you can't say retention money पे मैं tax नहीं देगा. But 43CB says retention money also forms part of revenue at the outset also. Don't defer it as you were doing in the past. So if 43CB applies to you, 43CB will apply in toto, and therefore qua retention money also, I mean you will have to follow whatever is stated in 43CB. If at all you don't like what I am saying, this is what Ahmedabad Tribunal is also saying in Aryan bid space. Okay. So, sorry, in Aryacon rather. Okay. Now let's come to this 3613. Now what is this? I guess all of you know there is something called as ICDS 9. Which is on borrowing cost. One of the items there, I mean, one term there is qualifying asset. And qualifying asset means inventory which takes more than 12 months for completion. Inventory which takes more than 12 months for completion. Therefore, 3613 is saying, sorry, ICDS 9 is saying that out of your total borrowing cost, जो डायरेक्टली बोरो किया है क्वालिफाइंग एसेट के लिए, उसकी कॉस्ट में ऐड करो. द बोरोइंग कॉस्ट विच इज नॉट डायरेक्टली फॉर ए पर्टिकुलर क्वालिफाइंग एसेट बट इज इन अ जनरल पूल, then they give you a formula A into B upon C. Apply that formula and capitalize interest qua each item of qualifying asset. ICDS 9 has a paragraph which says that if the provisions of this ICDS are in conflict with the provisions of the Act, then the provisions of the Act will prevail. Correct? Now, what is the Act saying? The Act has got this 3613. 3613 is on the screen? Yeah, okay. It says amount of interest paid in respect of capital borrowed for the purpose of business. Then there is a proviso which was inserted from 1416. And the proviso says, the strike portion. The proviso was there in 2003 or something. The provided that amount of interest paid in respect of capital borrowed for acquisition of an asset for any period beginning from date on which capital was borrowed till the date on which asset was put to use shall not be allowed as a deduction. Now, the word used is asset. Stock in trade is also asset. Capital asset is also asset. So the question arose whether the proviso covers stock in trade or not. The answer is no. Proviso does not cover stock in trade. Why? Because the proviso uses the word put to use. The reference of put to use is suggestive that 3613 का proviso applies only for items constituting part of block of asset. Okay. This was the judicially accepted view. Therefore, there is nothing in 3613 which says borrowing cost when capital is borrowed for inventory will not be allowed as deduction. Therefore, can I not say that the ICDS 9 is in conflict with 3613 and therefore provisions of 3613 will prevail. Therefore, ICDS 9 को window में से बाहर फेंक दो as far as builder developer is concerned. The answer is no. I cannot say that. Why can I not say that? Because they have amended 145(2) and 145(a). Let's look at 145. 145(2) says the central government may notify in the official gazette from time to time ICDS to be followed by any class of SSE or in respect of any class of income. ICDS have been notified. Fine. Therefore, ICDS has to be followed. Now look at 145(a). For the purpose of determining income chargeable under the PGBP, the valuation of inventory shall be at lower of actual cost or NRV computed in accordance with ICDS notified under 145(2). Am I clear so far? Therefore, valuation करते वक्त you have to bear in mind your valuation has to be lower of cost or NRV. Cost or NRV कैसे compute करने का? He is saying do it in accordance with ICDS. Now when I go to ICDS 2, which is dealing with valuation of inventory, one of the components of cost is borrowing cost to the extent mentioned in ICDS 9. Therefore, it is because of 145(2) read with 145 capital A that ICDS 9 becomes relevant. If you ignore this ICDS 2 or you ignore these two sections, you will come to a conclusion that there is a conflict between ICDS 9 and 3613 and therefore 3613 should prevail. But actually there is no conflict now. Okay, fine. Now, therefore what? Therefore, question arises, can I still get interest as a period cost? Can I still get interest as a period cost or no, going by the ratio of India Cements, Wall Street, Tapadia, etc., etc. For us in Bombay, the most important decision being Lokhandwala Constructions, which was directly in relation to builder developer borrowing money. Now, for SSEs who are following project completion, pre-ICDS, we had Bombay Tribunal in Tata Housing, Pune branch in Thakkar Developers, and Mumbai Tribunal in K. Raheja. and Bangalore Tribunal again in K. Reja Development saying that even for an SSC following project completion method, interest will be allowed as a period cost. This was a very big thing for builder developer. Interest for all the projects came and sat in P&L. But profit of only that one project which got completed during the year came to P&L. So on the debit side, you had debit of 5 items or 7 items, but on the credit side you had 1 or 2. And therefore, the profit of one project was set off with period cost of another project, thereby giving a substantial relief. Now what I have to see now is whether can I get away with all this. Now let's look at qualifying asset ka definition. Qualifying asset in ICDS 9 is defined to mean land, building, machinery, plant being tangible asset, know-how, patent, copyright, trademark, license being intangible asset, and third is inventory. Now first question, 1 or 2 points, since I have only 15 minutes and I have TDS also remaining, let me just rush up. Only 2 issues on this ICDS 9. Number 1, land. Will it covered by item number 1 of qualifying asset or item number 3? Land held as stock in trade. Therefore, if I borrow 100 crores and I go and buy land next door over here, can I claim deduction? Can I claim deduction in respect of that 100 crore on the ground कि land में तो कुछ करने का नहीं होता, कल बेचने का होगा तो कल बिक जाएगा, right? Because your point number 3 is inventories that require a period of 12 months or more to bring them to a sellable condition. This land which I am buying next door is already in sellable condition, boss. Therefore, the question is whether land held as inventory will get covered by clause 1 in the definition of qualifying asset, or is it covered by clause 3? Okay. The question is general versus specific. I don't know. Okay. One can argue both ways, whatever way that you want. The tribunal has understood 1 and 2 to mean block of asset ka definition. They say block of asset ka definition is identical. Now I would read normally 1 and 2 is capital assets, 3 is stock in trade. So land held as capital asset will go under 1. But land held as stock in trade will come under 3. Officer may say that. I'll say, okay, sir, agreed. Land held as stock in trade will come in 3. But what is 3 saying? Inventories that require a period of 12 months or more to bring them to a sellable condition. Is this land not in a sellable condition? The answer is yes, this land is already in a sellable condition. Therefore, there should be no question of any borrowing cost being capitalized for purchase of land. There should be possible argument. And you have a tribunal decision already holding so. You have a fantastic tribunal decision. I'm not going through this technical guide which says that Lokhandwala conflict, etc., because I believe, I have not checked it though, after this technical guide there was an amendment in that 145 capital A. Because after that Delhi High Court came, striking down ICDS and reading it down, they amended 145 capital A, and I believe technical guide was before that. I mean, I have not checked it again, so I am subject to correction as far as that part is concerned. Okay. Now, this is a Pune tribunal decision in Korte Patil, where tribunal says that if you are following percentage completion method, then after the plans are approved, everything is in a sellable condition. They say that if you are following percentage completion method and once your plans are approved for 20 floors, even though you have constructed up to 2 floors, you can still sell a flat on the 20th floor. Yes or no? यस, बिकॉज मेरा प्लान अप्रूव्ड है, मेरे पास एफएसआई है, बीएमसी ने बोला है काम करो, मैं कर रहा हूं। 2 बरस में मैं 2 माले पे पहुंचा, कभी तो पहुंचूंगा 20 माले पे। शरद भाई को इंटरेस्ट है देने में आज, सो ही इज बुकिंग। कैन आई सेल और नो? द आंसर इज yes. So tribunal is saying this is already in a sellable condition. Therefore what? Therefore qua an SSC who is following percentage completion method, they are saying ICDS 9 gets diluted to a significant extent. Now the tribunal is again emphasizing only on those following percentage completion. Now since those of you who are there, or if the AO pushes you to, I mean, percentage completion, at least rake up this argument and save whatever best you can save, right? So this is about Korte Patil. B Raheja is simple. Okay, let's come to, I have 10 minutes more, right? I'll finish TDS, 3 issues. Now, I'm dealing with 2 or 3 issues on TDS. Let's come to 194 IC first. Now, 194 IC is non-obstante 194 IA. The downside of 194 IC is that it expects a TDS at the rate of 10%. On what? On consideration under the agreement referred to in 45I. On consideration under the agreement referred to in 45(5)(a), but only on the monetary consideration. Kind पे वो deduct करने को नहीं बोलता है, right? Now the question is, he is referring to an agreement referred to in 45(5)(a). When you go to 45(5)(a), it begins by saying that this section is non-obstante 45(1), but it applies only to individual and HUF. 45(5)(a) applies only to an individual or an HUF. But this section is not referring to 45(5)(a), it is referring to agreement under 5(a) or 45(5). Now when you read that definition of agreement, the specified agreement, which is in explanation small Roman 2 below 45(5)(a), it says specified agreement means a registered agreement, उसमें कोई problem नहीं है मेरे को, in which a person owning land or building, a person owning. Therefore, if a society is owning land or building, your client as a builder developer enters into a DA with that society. Society is a person. Society is not an individual or an HUF. Therefore, society को 45(5)(a) apply होगा कि नहीं, debatable issue. Okay. Now, under that agreement, you are paying, what did you say in the first session? Rent for alternate accommodation, hardship allowance, corpus. All these are consideration under an agreement referred to in 45(5)(a). Therefore, should you deduct 10% or should you not deduct 10%? Should you deduct 10% or should you not deduct 10%? People who are advising don't deduct say कि नहीं जहाँ 45(5)(a) अप्लाई नहीं होता है वहाँ 194 IC भी नहीं अप्लाई होगा. ऐसा कहाँ लिखा है? So they say both are introduced by the same Finance Act. Both may be introduced by the same Finance Act, but that does not mean that both are husband and wife and both will travel together or that both are married together. One cannot exist without the other, right? I need something in law to suggest that one cannot coexist without the other, right? I find it difficult. However, you have, okay, now what could be the argument to say 45(5)(a) applies to a society? You have an old circular of 1969 issued by CBDT, which says that a member of the society for all purposes will be regarded as the owner. Though in law it is the society which is the owner, that CBDT circular of 1969, which is valid even today, says that the member of the society for all purposes is the owner is what CBDT has been advised, and therefore, can I not say that 45(5)(a) also will apply, because though society on paper or in general law is the owner, CBDT says that in law for all income tax purposes I am the owner. If I am the owner, then 45(5)(a) applies to me, and this is also there. Now this is a big deal breaker in many societies. If you are advising the builder developer, you have to be conscious of the fact that if the officer takes a view that tax is deductible, then you will lose all your deductions because of 40A IA. Because of 40A IA, you will lose deduction. You are attracting interest liability, because most of these amounts the member will not offer for taxation also, on the ground that this is a capital receipt, not chargeable to tax. Therefore, it may become difficult later on to save the situation. However, fortunately, you have decisions of the tribunal to the effect that tax is not required to be deducted at source, even under 194 IC. In the context of 194 IC itself, you have a direct decision. Earlier, you had a decision called 194 I and IA, and the tribunal said no. But in that very same SSC's case, in a subsequent year, 194 IC became applicable. So the department said 194 IC to apply hota hai. The tribunal has held that 194 IC does not apply. The reasoning of the tribunal is that 194 IC applies to consideration for transfer. This hardship allowance, rent for alternate accommodation, is not a consideration for transfer. It is consideration for the inconvenience which that person is bearing, and therefore no TDS. I am not commenting on the correctness or otherwise of the decision. I am only pointing out what the tribunal has said. If you like it, follow it. If you don't like it, take your own call. Now, you have a Bombay High Court in Sarfaraz Sharaf Ali Furniture Wala, where Bombay High Court single judge, non-tax bench, follows tribunal decisions and holds that no, the amount of transit rent is a capital receipt, and therefore tax is not required to be deducted at source. In the context of 195, I am conscious that you have decisions saying that if something is not taxable, no TDS under 195. But that is, according to me, because of peculiar language of 195. Now, if you go to 194C, can you say कि अगर किसी का इनकम एग्जेम्प्ट है वो कॉन्ट्रैक्टर का, तो मैं TDS 194C में नहीं करूँगा? Quite difficult for me, but nevertheless, you have a decision. You can use it to the extent you need it. The decision in the context of 194 IC, to which I made a reference, is Nathani Parekh Constructions Private Limited, which by now is a reported decision. Right? Now, let's come to surrender of tenancy rights in 5 minutes. Now, a builder developer normally pays consideration to a tenant for surrendering tenancy rights. The question arises, should tax be deducted? If yes, under which section? The immediate section which comes to mind is 194 IA. But we have a live case where the builder deducted under 194 IA. Then it was realized कि नहीं, उस आदमी का तो PAN and Aadhaar link नहीं है, या he was not filing return, and therefore tax was deductible at 20%, and I deducted it only at 1%. Therefore, a demand arose for 19% along with interest. Right? So in that context, when you go and revisit 194 IA, you realize that there are 2 or 3 reasons by which you can say that on surrender of tenancy right, no TDS is required. Immovable property in the context of 194 IA is exhaustively defined to mean any land or building or part of a building. Therefore, rights in land are not covered. tenancy is a right in land or a building. It is not land or building. And you have plethora of decisions, Kishori, Sharad Gaitonde, etc., in the context of 50C, telling you that 50C does not apply to transfer of tenancy rights. Borrowing that rationale, 194IA does not apply. Second, 194IA requires deduction on greater of the two amounts. One is the consideration and second is the stamp duty value. Now when you go to register the document of surrender, they are showing stamp duty value as 0. Why? Because in stamp duty law, whatever consideration the tenant pays to the builder is accepted as correct. Therefore, there is no question of market value of the tenancy right. Therefore, section is anticipating only those properties which have stamp duty value. In this case, tenancy does not even have stamp duty value. Therefore, question does not arise. Third argument, and the last argument. The third argument is that 194IA envisages a transfer of immovable property from the transferor to the transferee. Therefore, that very same immovable property which is subject matter of transfer exists before the transfer and also exists after the transfer. In case of tenancy right, when there is a surrender from a tenant to a landlord, that tenancy right does not exist after transfer. It merges into the larger right of the landowner. And therefore, for these three reasons, I may say that surrender of tenancy right may not apply. Now, lastly, there is a decision of, I think, Bangalore Tribunal in, okay, before that, so, in an exchange, there cannot be TDS. So, you have a flat, I have a flat, same society, same floor, I mean, same wing, same size. You are on the ground floor, I am on the 5th floor, right? I prefer ground floor for health reasons. You prefer 5th floor for ventilation and peace. So we decide to enter into an exchange. आप आपका ग्राउंड फ्लोर छोड़ दो, 5 पे आ जाओ, मैं मेरा 5 वाला छोड़ देता हूँ, ग्राउंड फ्लोर पे आ जाता हूँ. फ्लैट्स की साइज सेम है, वी डोंट गेट इनटू वैल्यूएशन. आपको 5 चाहिए, मुझे ग्राउंड चाहिए, चलो एक्सचेंज करते हैं. वी साइन अ डॉक्यूमेंट. Will 194IA apply? Will 194IA apply? Transfer it is. Undoubtedly transfer it is, because exchange is also a transfer. My opinion, 194IA will not apply. Because TDS provisions apply only when there is a monetary payment involved. Only if they want for kind payments TDS, they have expressly stated. For example, lottery section, there was an old circular, and other provisions. Now I think you have 28(4) के context में कि tax should be deducted on the value of the benefit which you are giving, or you must make sure that he has paid the tax. So wherever they want, they have expressly stated. 194IA does not expressly state, and therefore there is no question of any TDS. If at all you want decision, there is a Karnataka High Court decision where municipality gave TDR certificate in lieu of land taken over, and the question of TDS came, and the court said there is no question of TDS out of the value of the TDR. Barter with a contractor who is constructing, again I would say no. But if it is a genuine barter right from day one, तुमने पैसा नक्की किया per foot, पैसा हो गया 1 करोड़, अब तुम बोलते हो 1 करोड़ नहीं है, तू फ्लैट ले दे, that is not a barter. नॉर्मली बिल्डर क्या करता है, पैसा नक्की करता है कॉन्ट्रैक्ट का, काम हो गया, उसके बाद में बोलता है अभी तेरा 1 करोड़ बनता है, मेरे पास 1 करोड़ तो नहीं है, ये फ्लैट ले दे चाहिए तो तेरे को. So that is no barter, that is discharge in kind. Consideration is monetary, it is discharged in kind. Lastly, area sharing agreement, security deposit received, department says there should be TDS under 194IA or whatever. DA, area sharing, security deposit given. Because there was a clause in the DA which said that if you don't pay deposit, I will sell your area, and out of the sale consideration, I will recover my deposit. department says this is not deposit, this is an receipt in advance, consideration received in advance, and therefore TDS should happen. You have a Bangalore tribunal decision in prestige projects, etc., telling you no, it cannot happen. Again, a decision worth reading for various propositions. I think I'll stop here. Sharad, I have covered all that I had thought to cover. Thank you.
Thank you, Jagdish Bhai, for excellent presentation. I'll just share one secret with you. When in our topic and speaker committee we decided such a long and vast subject, we thought whom we should call. Then we said, none other than Jagdish Bhai. Because why? There are two reasons. He's a chartered accountant as
He's
well
a
as a
friend.
professor. So he knows how to complete the syllabus well in time. Thank you, Jagdish Bhai.
Yes, I thought it was a related party transaction.
And now I'll request Shri Ashwin Tumar to present a well-deserved vote of thanks to the Jagdish Bhai.
Sir, as rightly said, knowledge grows when it is shared. On behalf of BCSE, I extend my heartful thanks to CA Jagdish Punjabi sir for giving in-depth knowledge on real estate projects. Sir, your passion for the subject and willingness to share your knowledge is truly inspired us. Thank you for sharing in-depth knowledge regarding accounting and taxation of real estate projects. Let's have a big round of applause for CA Jagdish Punjabi sir. Thank you, sir.